When Americans think of political scandals, they often think of Watergate, or modern headlines flashing across cable news. But scandal is not new to the Republic. From the earliest days of the Constitution, the United States was rocked by sex scandals, bribery schemes, financial conspiracies, and massive corruption inside the federal government itself. The Founding Fathers envisioned a virtuous republic, but ambition, greed, and human weakness arrived with the nation's first leaders. Tonight, we explore 8 political scandals from the 18th and 19th centuries, controversies that tested the limits of democracy long before the modern era. America's first major sex scandal involved one of its most brilliant founders. In 1791, Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton began an affair with Maria Reynolds, a married woman. But her husband, James Reynolds, soon discovered the relationship and demanded money. For years, Hamilton secretly paid blackmail. When political enemies later accused him of financial corruption, Hamilton made a stunning decision. He publicly confessed to adultery, publishing a 95-page pamphlet detailing the affair. It was the first time in American history a senior official admitted to a sex scandal in print. Hamilton saved his financial reputation, but destroyed his political future. In the 1790s, Georgia lawmakers secretly sold 35 million acres of Western land at shockingly low prices to land speculators who had bribed them. The deal became known as the Yazoo land scandal. When the public discovered the corruption, outrage exploded. The next legislature voided the sales, and citizens publicly burned copies of the fraudulent contracts. The controversy eventually reached the Supreme Court in Fletcher versus Peck, the first time the court struck down a state law as unconstitutional. The scandal didn't just expose corruption, it strengthened judicial power in America. In 1797, Senator William Blount of Tennessee was caught in a conspiracy to incite Native American tribes and frontiersmen to help Britain seize Spanish-controlled Florida and Louisiana. Why? Blount had heavily invested in Western lands. If Britain took control, his investments would skyrocket. President John Adams exposed the plot. Blount became the first U.S. senator ever impeached and expelled from office. The message was clear: private greed would not be allowed to hijack foreign policy. After killing Alexander Hamilton in a duel, Vice President AaronBurr turned westward, and possibly toward treason. Burr was accused of plotting to create an independent nation in Western territories, perhaps even conquering Spanish Mexico. President Thomas Jefferson called it a conspiracy against the United States. Burr was arrested and tried for treason in 1807. Chief Justice John Marshall ultimately acquitted him due to lack of hard evidence. But the damage was done. Burr's career collapsed. It remains one of the most mysterious scandals in American history. Sometimes scandal isn't about money, but reputation. Peggy Eaton, the wife of Secretary of War John Eaton, was accused by Washington Society of immoral behavior. Elite wives, including the vice president's wife, refused to associate with her. President AndrewJackson, whose own late wife had endured vicious attacks, took it personally. He demanded loyalty. The controversy tore apart his cabinet and ultimately contributed to Vice President John C. Calhoun's political downfall. A social scandal had reshaped national politics. During construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, executives created a fake company called Credit Mobilier. They awarded themselves inflated contracts and then bribed members of Congress with discounted stock to prevent investigation. When the scheme was exposed in 1872, it implicated the vice president and several lawmakers. Although few faced serious punishment, public trust in government plummeted. It became one of the most notorious corruption scandals of the Gilded Age. In 1875, federal agents uncovered a massive conspiracy. Distillers and Treasury officials had colluded to siphon millions in liquor taxes from the federal government. The scheme operated in multiple states and even reached into President Ulysses S. Grant's inner circle. Grant himself was never implicated, but several close associates were convicted. The whiskey ring confirmed what many Americans feared. Corruption was thriving inside the very government meant to enforce the law. In the 1880s, private contractors bribed government officials to secure lucrative mail delivery routes in the American West, known as star routes. Costs were artificially inflated. Kickbacks flowed through Washington. Although prosecutions struggled to secure convictions, the scandal fueled demands for civil service reform. It reinforced a growing belief that the spoils system, political favoritism in government jobs, was poisoning American democracy. From secret affairs to land fraud, from treason trials to nationwide tax conspiracies. Political scandal has shadowed the United States since its founding. Yet each controversy also strengthened the system. Impeachments were tested. The Supreme Court asserted authority. Civil service reform gained momentum. Oversight expanded. Scandal exposed weakness, but it also forced accountability. The American experiment survived not because it was pure, but because it endured scrutiny. Before Watergate, before modern headlines, there were these 8 scandals, reminders that democracy has always been a work in progress, and perhaps always will be,